Hey everybody! So today we are going to talk about some of the symptoms of DID. Now, in the DSM, it describes DID as two or more separate identity states who take control of the person's behavior and body, and a lack of memory of significant life events and personal information that cannot be explained by normal forgetfulness. Well, that's just one part of it. That's what's required to get a diagnosis, but that doesn't really encompass all of the symptoms that you live with when you have DID. So let's get into that. But first, I want to let you know that I really appreciate all of our subscribers and all of those who've commented recently. It means a lot to all of us. And there's going to be a surprise at the end of this video where we're going to tell you some really amazing things that DID have allowed us to do that maybe we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. Alright, so here we go. The first symptom is derealization. Now this is a type of dissociation, and given it's called Dissociative Identity Disorder, that shouldn't be too surprising. But what derealization is it's when what is around you no longer feels like it's part of reality. It feels like you're in a dream, like nothing around you is real, like none of it's really happening. The second one is another type of dissociation called depersonalization. This is when it feels like it's not happening to you, but it's happening to someone else. Like you're watching something occurring from the sidelines. And I personally think that if researchers would like to, they should look into this more, because I believe that may actually be one of the key components to what allows DID to develop in the first place, is the capacity of the mind to separate what is happening to you and what is happening to someone else in a dissociative state, and to create a separate identity so that it literally is as if it's happening to someone else instead of you. Now, another symptom is flashbacks. Now, when most people hear the word flashbacks, they think of visual flashbacks, where you're seeing the trauma as if it's happening again. But those are not the only type of flashbacks. You can also have physical flashbacks, where you are feeling the physical sensations that were felt during the time of the trauma. For example, if you had burns in your trauma, like if you were in a bad house fire, you would feel the heat. You would feel those burns again. Another type of flashback is an emotional flashback, and these are actually quite common in a lot of people with DID. That's where instead of experiencing the visual of what's happening in the past trauma as if it's happening now, you're experiencing the emotions that happened during that trauma. And it feels as if you are in that trauma again emotionally, even though you can still see and hear what's happening in front of you. Other types of flashbacks are other sensory flashbacks. Smells, sounds, tastes that you're experiencing as if they were happening now, when in all reality, they're a part of the trauma in the past. Another symptom of DID is trouble with time. And I don't mean like you can't tell time. I mean that you have trouble processing the concept of time. Time seems to just get away from you. Like, for instance, even if you're not experiencing a direct switch, you can have a lot of lost time, a lot of dissociative amnesia, which is where you don't remember things. And it can be very scary and very frustrating when you look up at the clock and somehow 3 hours have passed and you don't remember where they went or what you were doing. Another symptom that is very common in people with DID is a sudden, unexplainable loss of skills. This usually happens when you have a blending together of the skills of one system member and another system member, especially when one of the system members involved is very young. Like, for instance, I have had moments where I suddenly could not remember how to spell, or read, or tie my shoes. Couldn't remember which direction the letters go. It can be very frustrating, especially when you're not really sure what system member is influencing things and why. Another common symptom for people with DID is a difficulty with memory in general. And that means that people with DID are often very forgetful. Now, this doesn't mean that's the same for everyone. Everyone's going to have a different level of struggle and may have some different struggles than others, but it is very common. Like, for example, I will often not be able to recall the date of a significant event, or even necessarily what time I did something, or if I did something at all, if I haven't written it down or kept a note in my phone. And this can be really frustrating, especially when you have to do things like take medications at certain times, or you have a paper you need to write for school. It can be very, very frustrating. And a final symptom that a lot of people with DID have is a difficulty distinguishing what is theirs and what belongs to another system mate. And when I say that, I don't mean like physical stuff out here in the regular world. I'm talking about thoughts, feelings, and opinions. For instance, one day you could really, really like a certain food, and then the next day you hate it. And you're not really sure if it's you that doesn't like it, or if it's one of your system mates who doesn't like it, and their experience is merging with your experience. It can be very difficult to distinguish what's you and what's someone else, and it gets very frustrating at times. But with communication and cooperation, it does get easier. Now, for that special part I told you about. One of the amazing things that we have found we can do because of DID, which not to say that it's glamorous or wonderful, how we developed DID is terrible, but it has made our lives different in ways that it probably wouldn't have been otherwise. And the amazing thing that we can do is we can multitask in a way that people who are not multiple cannot. For instance, I could be singing a song to my daughter, while a system mate is texting my husband on the phone, asking him to pick something up from the grocery store. And another system mate is coming up with a list of things they want to do for the day, all at the same time. And that can be a real strain on the brain and can cause a lot of headaches, but it is a skill that we have used from time to time, and it is an amazing skill that we wouldn't have otherwise. So it is something that we find particularly interesting. And we hope that all of you enjoyed these facts and this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification button. Have a good day, everybody.